So, Amy Graff here, excited to share with you some of the information that I found about Native American families. And I think it's really great that we are able to do some research on Native American cultures because of how much it affects our work as current and future educators. Being able to understand this culture is very important. For this presentation, I focused mostly on the two tribes that were predominantly in Minnesota, which was the Dakota and the Ojibwe Native American people. So today, during this short lesson, we're going to understand more about the family circle of the Native American people, which includes parenting, roles, and their living arrangements. We'll also talk a little bit about family values and the values that those families held near and dear to their heart. And finally, and I think most importantly, is we'll reflect upon the challenges that have come when we look at traditional Native American family values and family roles and how that has come into conflict with current society, which include not only in Minnesota, but I think within the United States, those challenges, which again, we need to be really cognizant of as we work with kids from so many different cultures. First, looking at the roles in Native American families, what's been very interesting is talking for sure about the circle of life. Everything that's in the circle of life is all connected. They're all connected. When it comes to children were really cherished and loved and never disciplined too harshly, because the belief is that children need to keep their spirit of life, and that discipline would really crush that spirit. And so that's something super important for us to realize before we ever judge anybody else's child, is this the idea of parenting may really be different from what we think is the right way, which may not be the right way. So that's something that is important. The other thing with the circle of life when it comes to the parenting is that it was definitely a shared responsibility. And so shared responsibility came from even aunts and uncles, of course, elders and fathers and mothers to be able to really take care of their child. The role of the wife or the mother was that was the owner of the home. And so she would make all decisions that pertain to the home life. The other thing that was interesting is when a man and a woman were married, they ended up moving into the wife's family's house. And so that new family would make a home with other elders, with the mother's or the wife's parents, as well as other aunts and uncles. So very much an extended family would be living together under one roof, which would make for the ideal situation of a shared responsibility as well as mutual dependence upon each other. Husbands and fathers were mostly seen as a role of hunter, or the person that would bring home food and keeping their family fed. Also, the importance of elders in this community. The elders were seen as the wise ones that were the storytellers and shared the history of the people throughout the different generations. And then lastly, the importance of nature in the circle of life, that nature was also seen as something that was a part of the family. And so those roles, again, very, very important. Of course, there were always some differences in roles, but this is traditionally what the circle of the family was about. Again, start thinking about how this whole idea of the extended family, everyone living together, the respect of elders, how these different roles could potentially come into conflict with today's society, and how we need to be aware of how that would be a definite struggle. Our next kind of important thing in the families is these values that Native Americans felt to be very important. You can read through those, the whole idea of accepting others, being honoring and respectful, grateful, sharing, not judging others. There's a lot about, I think, this basic love of all, generosity, sharing, being patient, and helping and honoring. All of these important words, all of these values, perhaps you can see how these could be have conflict with today's society of how we look at the world as maybe Americans or United States values, how they're a little bit different. And so I would love for you to think about defining some of these words. Sometimes it's hard to define sharing, or hard to define being grateful. And so something to think about is how you would define these words, and then, being able to help act that out if ever running into a conflict with another person that maybe thinks differently from you. Here's thinking about these challenges. So again, a reflection that we are going to do here in a little bit in our journals is thinking about how these following areas in the Native American family have been challenged by today's society. I think values, again, thinking about media, what we see on media, wealth, our society really kind of focuses on how wealth is your definition of success or perfection. I think we have a big society of being selfish, and that's kind of seen on media roles, on anytime you talk about, people say, what do you do for your job? I mean, all of those things really can, challenge the values that the Native American family held to be very important. Also, the family roles. I'm not sure how we would look upon, a whole family of aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, and how that kind of conflicts with the nuclear family that, the United States has really touted as the way to be, is, the four member family, and how that really challenges traditional Native American idea of living all together. Also, housing shortages is a huge issue right now in Minnesota. Rent is super expensive. There's a lot of poverty that we see in the Native American culture, even so close to us in Minnesota. So that's just some things to really see how that really has challenged our Native American families. So that's something to think about. And then finally, hold on just a second. The Native American life, something that I know somebody probably will also talk about, is how a lot of the kids got sent to boarding schools and were forced to maybe cut their hair to really disown their former life. And those repercussions are still being seen in some of our Native American families today. The idea that they were kind of forced into reservations and off of what they considered their land. And so I think those are all these challenges that still resonate in the Native American family life currently. So always things that we need to take awareness of and to understand, and of course not judge, and to be very open and welcoming and really helpful to the kiddos that come into our classrooms. What I would like you to do in your in your reflection journal is sketch, write about anything that was interesting, thinking about some of the values and how they've been demonstrated in your life. And then also thinking about your own memories of your values, the challenges that we discussed, racism, assimilation, poverty, how that really would affect your memory, if that was you. And in a way, it kind of relates to how perhaps some of our Native American families are coming into our classrooms, and how we need to, develop, relationships of trust and respect between the parents and the children. And after about 15 minutes, whenever anyone is done writing, give me the look. I'll be watching you, and we will split into groups of 3 or 4 people and just kind of share in those small groups anything that we found interesting or anything else that we want to talk about. Thank you.